Continuing with the previews of IPL 2025, we're going to move on to SRH, who were the runners-up last season, 2024, rightfully so. They are the Sunrisers, Hyderabad, but last season they were called the Runrisers on the back of scoring 3 of the 4 highest scores ever in the IPL. 287, 277 and 266. Those numbers we wouldn't have even thought of only a couple of years ago, and it sort of shows the impact, one of the impact rule, the impact sub, so you can bat a lot deeper, play with a heck of a lot more freedom, and also just the freedom and the fearless approach that so many of the modern players have. So we'd expect something similar this season. So if we look back to the retention phase heading into the mega auction from SRH, they obviously had a great season. Dan Vettori and Pat Cummins would have sat down and said, hey, who are the players that we need to hang on to? So I thought they spent wisely. They hung on to obviously Travis Head, who had an outbreak season last season. Abhishek Sharma, who is just getting better and better with the bat. And we saw even that series against England, how explosive he can be. Nitesh Reddy, who is a future all-rounder for India in all forms of the game, I believe. His batting is exceptional. If his bowling can continue to improve in the same type of level, then he will be competing with the likes of Hardik Pandya down the line. So India in good space with that seam bowling all-rounder. Heinrich Klaasen, pretty much the best T20 player in the middle order around the world, the most consistent, and that has just continued. He had a breakout season or an exceptional season last year with SRH and was retained for a high price, and rightfully so. Pat Cummins, the captain. So there's sort of your 5 core players that SRH chose to retain. Heading into the auction, they obviously had plenty of holes to fill, but they pretty much had, 4 of the top 5 covered from a batting point of view. So it was more about strengthening the bowling attack. Now, we talked last year about the Sunrisers or the Runrisers at Hyderabad and also away on the flat surfaces. Their method was pretty much, we're just going to outpower our opposition with the bat. We're going to score a massive score and our bowlers are going to hang on. I think SRH have done better than that this year. I think they have firmed up their bowling depth, and I'm going to go through that in a moment. So let's just start. Travis Head, Abhishek Sharma, probably the most explosive opening pair in the competition. They're also high volume players. So they not only score at a high rate, so when they score runs, they get your team to a winning total. They also have high volume. So Dan Vettori and co will expect them to produce the same. Now they've topped that up with spending a high price on Ishan Kishan, who was bought for over 16 crore at the previous big auction by Mumbai Indians. This year, not as much, but he will be incredibly valuable and he will align with the playing philosophy of SRH, which is pretty much in the power play, we keep going. Post power play, if we're in, we actually go harder. So Ishan Kishan will slot in here. They'll have 3 left-handers at the top. I don't think they will be worried about that. A lot of these guys reverse and so forth, so they can access both sides of the park anyway. Abhishek Sharma hits 6s over the offside, so whether there's a short side or a big side, not a big issue. So Ishan Kishan, whether he keeps or not, or he shares the load with Heinrich Klaasen, only time will tell, but 2 high-quality keepers. We talked about Nitesh Reddy. He'll slot in there because he's got real batsmanship. If there's wickets not lost early, the likes of Heinrich Klaasen could slot up to maximise the amount of time at the crease. Abhinav Manohar has come from Gujarat Titans, known as a power player and experienced finisher in the domestic scene, so he is a good addition. Replaces Abdul Samad, who basically fulfilled that role last season. Manohar will have to do something similar in terms of bringing a high impact. Now, I've written up here, this is a batting 11, so all the way down here, so down at the bottom, we'll just stop at 11, and this will be an overseas player that will be able to give you an impact point of view from a bowling point of view. I'll talk about that in a minute. If you're bowling first, then for me, Sachin Baby will not be in your playing 11. He will be able to be subbed in as the impact batter in the second innings. So it's not so much a playing 11 now, it's more the batting 11, bowling 11, and the impact sub. So making sure you're all across that. For me, Sachin Baby, they've only really got the 2 batting covers, which is Atava Taide, who's very much a top order player, quite a conventional left-hander, nice player, but not, you wouldn't say explosive in the mould of these three, but he will fit in there and perform a role. Sachin Baby can bat anywhere sort of from 4 to 6 or 7. Good player of spin, a left-hander to sort of complement this if they get to a ground where the ball turns a lot, and he's excellent in the field. So be interesting to see, how much of a role he plays. But there's not a lot of other batting cover outside of that. Aniket Verma is one, but certainly not a huge amount of information on him from a domestic point of view. Pat Cummins was exceptional leader. He will be relied on to bowl at least a couple of overs in the power play. They'll try and keep him away from the death so he can bowl that hard length, maybe 1 or 2 through the middle. He might bowl one early death, maybe around 14, 15, 16, but not much later than that. The addition of Harshal Patel is a smart one. Once again, he can bowl one in the power play, but he's a purple cap holder for a reason. He's won it twice because he picks up wickets through the middle and at the back end. Occasionally he does go for runs if he doesn't get it right, but if he's able to get that slower ball coming out and has confidence with it, he adds a huge point of attack and a point of difference to this attack that they had last season. If you're getting a lot of runs, you're expecting the opposition to come hard at you, and that's when Harshal Patel is at his best with that dipping slower ball. They've got a straight swap here with Jaydev Unadkat, and he will, once again, more of an off-pace type of bowler. He provides the left arm angle, so if Harshal Patel is unfit for whatever reason, that's pretty much a straight swap in terms of the time of the innings that he will bowl. Rahul Chahar, they had Mayank Makande last year. They've upgraded, I guess, with Rahul Chahar in terms of coming in. He will be the front-line leg spinner for SRH. And then, obviously, Mohammad Shami, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar has moved on. They've brought in Mohammad Shami, who will be more used throughout the innings, probably at least 2 up front, maybe 1 in the middle, and definitely 1 at the back end, where him and Harshal Patel will have to do some work. We know Nitesh Reddy with the ball will also have to bowl some overs in the power play, middle, maybe not so much at the death. And then it comes into, I'll add there, you've got Zishan Ansari as a backup for Rahul Chahar. Certainly not the same type of pedigree from a numbers point of view, but I would imagine that will be the swap there. Simajit Singh is a nice operator with the new ball. Nice and tall, swings the new ball, can bowl good Yorkers, whether it be straight or wide. So a nice backup for the injury-prone Mohammad Shami. And whether the BCCI want to look after him, and he might be limited in terms of how many matches he plays, only time will tell. But I think they've got a nice replacement in Simajit just sitting there. As I said, that will be your batting 11. And then SRH have got the luxury this year of bringing in Adam Zampa as your impact player if they're bowling second. Therefore, you've got your 4 seamers in Reddy, Pat Cummins, Shami and Harshal Patel to bowl throughout the different phases. You've got Rahul Chahar through the middle, and you've got Adam Zampa, who is one of the best operators in white ball cricket around the world. So really good addition for Adam Zampa, and even on good surfaces that we're going to talk about at the Ranjiv Gandhi Stadium, he will still be able to control and take wickets through the middle. If it's not a spinning surface and dew comes in for some reason, they've got the likes of Ishan Malinga, who is very much a death specialist, quite a slingy action, certainly not as slingy as Lasith Malinga, but quite a low release if there's any form of reverse, and at the death he's quite hard to get under. So quite a nice addition that adds a real variety to that existing attack for SRH. Rian Mulder has come in for the injured Bryden Cass, who had a broken toe, so Rian Mulder will be that straight swap for Pat Cummins if required. Obviously provides that batting cover. He can slot up to even 6 if need be. But yeah, I think that's a nice mix of overseas players. As I said, I think it's a far better balanced bowling attack than SRH had last season to complement the skill they have with the bat. Plenty of points of attack. As I said, you've got new ball options with Shami, Cummins. Could be Malinga if he plays as that sub. Obviously, his ability can swing the new ball also. Then you've got the middle overs in death with the likes of Harshal Patel. Jadev Unadkat. So at the death, you've got more options, more variety. And then the two leg spinners I've talked about are both, high quality leg spinners, with Zampa adding a huge point of difference to that attack. If I'm looking at where SRH have some holes, I think lack of top order cover. It's very hard to cover the likes of Head, Sharma and Hesson. As I said, they've done it with a Tavataide. If Travis Head was to get injured, it's a pretty big drop down to the likes of Kaminda Mendes. Very fine test player. One day cricket, he's finding his feet. T20 is probably his least effective form at the moment. So what I would think is that Hesson would slide up to open, and then the likes of Kaminda Mendes will slot in here, whether it be at 3 or 4. Nice player, but as I said, certainly a big step down from Travis Head. Not as much finishing power as other sides, and SRH have not had to worry about that last season because the top order was so good. But the likes of, Manohar, Sachin Baby, Pat Cummins, you compare that with a KKR, with your Rinku Singh, your Dre Russ and your Ramandeep. Not as much power, but they've basically power packed the top 5, and that top 5 is as good as any side in the IPL this season. From a home ground perspective, some really high scores at the Ranjiv Gandhi Stadium last year. It's a bigger ground, so I think that's where the likes of Adam Zampa will come into his own, and Harshal Patel with those off pace where he gets a lot of wickets caught on the boundary. So he needs a decent sized playing field. Big ground, but generally a very, very good batting surface. So SRH, I think, made some huge strides last year on the back of some great leadership from Pat Cummins. I think that they've actually not only maintained the batting group from last year, I think they've enhanced it, and they've certainly enhanced the variety in their bowling side. So runner-up last year, I would see them once again as one of the playoff sides again, one of the top 4, and once you make the top 4, obviously that gives you a really good chance of going on to win. So I've had 2 so far, KKR and SRH, and both of those have been in my playoffs for 2025. SRH, look out again for another explosive season with the bat.